So recently we got some wonderful news. I would say I'm sure a lot of progressives and many progressives, even people that I'm not necessarily right along with politically, but a lot of people on the left are happy with, is Neera Tanden, who is the former henchwoman to Queen Hillary Clinton. She was recently nominated for the head of the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB. And this is actually, by the way, supposed to be a nonpartisan position. It's not supposed to be like, you're not supposed to be throwing some like, you know, so-called whatever, just not progressive, but let's say whatever, progressive, or in the case of, you know, like a Republican, some, you know, conservative person. They probably do it anyway, but it's kind of ridiculous how they don't even follow that, how they can't even follow that guideline, and then they pretend as if they're being totally fair. But putting in Neera Tanden in there just made no sense whatsoever. So it was just like the whole thing was just a complete it was a complete hodgepodge of just like, oh yeah, let's put this wonderful progressive woman in there, woman of color. Don't forget, woman of color. Got to push the identity politics too. Don't forget, guys. If you forget that, you're obviously a racist and a sexist. If you don't agree with a woman of color being the head of the OMB, head of the Office of Management and Budget, which, by the way, is a position that probably like 90% of people don't even know what the fuck it is. Unless you're like knee deep in this shit, you know what it is. But other than that, a lot of people are like, I don't know what this is, but they do know who Neera Tanden is. A good chunk of the resistors and blue anon people, they all love blue MAGA people. They love this shit. So they love this woman. So for whatever fucked up reason they can come up with. But I'm gonna let me show you this article here. So this article is from Politico, so it's actually just discussing. So, you know, obviously I gave you all the details. Now they're getting into the conversation of who is going to excuse me, who is going to replace Neera Tanden, and who is going to be, you know, who's going to be the next choice, assuming that they can't assuming that they can't get her to pass. And according to the numbers, the Democrat, or at least Joe Biden, is not going to have enough people in the Senate, enough senators to pass it. It's currently a 50-50 tie, actually. And this is, by the way, a situation that Kamala Harris, being the vice president, which is the president of the Senate, the president of the Senate is not allowed to cast that 51st vote to break a tie. So Kamala Harris is not going to be factoring in here, which is great. So they're already jockeying, quote unquote, to replace Neera Tanden. So apparently, let's see here. So apparently the goal has been to already kind of like move along with her, but in public they are still, so Joe Biden in public is still saying that he's going to be pushing, and that, you know, Biden administration is still going to be pushing for Neera Tanden to be the office of the head of the Office of Management and Budget. But they're not doing that. They're not putting it out there in the open. So they're kind of being a little bit more so they're in public. They're saying, yeah, we support Neera Tanden. Yeah, we back Neera Tanden. Yeah, we're gonna, you know, make sure she's gonna be the, you know, this nominations go through. She's gonna run the OMB. Blah blah blah. So that's what they're saying publicly, but privately it's not so much the case. So let me read a little bit of this here. It says the Biden White House is signaling publicly and privately that it is not prepared to abandon Neera Tanden's nomination to head the Office of Management and Budget. But almost immediately after Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, announced on Friday that he would vote against her confirmation, deeply imperiling her bid, behind-the-scenes jockeying began for those seeking to be the fallback option. By the way, it's incredible that we had to rely on Joe Manchin, by the way, who's pissed off about her mean tweets, and that's why he's voting against her. Bernie Sanders, who got the biggest ire from Neera Tanden, at least coming from somebody from the left, at least, got the biggest ire from Neera Tanden when it came to her attacks on it, and he still decided to vote for her. Now that's apparently he's changing his mind. His vote's not going to count anyway. But if he wants to join Manchin and double down and add an extra, knife in the heart or a knife in the back or whatever you want to call it, that's going to be perfectly fine with me and every other leftist out there. But it's still amazing though that Bernie was still willing to vote for her, even though he received so many attacks from her and all the people that are all these like pro Clinton, pro Hillary Clinton acolytes and everything. But yeah, the other people that are apparently being considered for the position are Gene Sperling, who was the two-time director of the National Economic Council, and Ann O'Leary, who just came off a stint serving as California Governor Gavin Newsom's chief of staff. I don't know what qualifications she has. It seems like Gene Sperling would be a much more a better pick as far as for that particular position, assuming he has the seems to have the bona fides to get those to get that position. He's the head of the National Economic Council. Sounds pretty important. I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know very much or if anything about the National Economic Council, but that sounds pretty legitimate compared to somebody that is the head of a so-called progressive, really in reality progressive group that basically I'll go into detail about why they're not really progressive. So in reality, they're just like a neoliberal, neo-progressive group. And but yeah, I think this guy, whoever Gene Sperling guy, is much more qualified to be in that position compared to somebody that has zero experience. What experience does Neera Tanden have to run the entire to run the budget of a country of 320 million people? I mean, that just makes no sense. Obviously, this was a pick to make Hillary, the likes of Hillary Clinton and all her friends happy, and push that the wonderful diverse pro-women, all-female or something, heavily female Biden administration, Biden cabinet, blah, blah, blah. That's what they're really pushing for. And this is what the boutique left loves, which is, the boutique left is a great saying coming from Richard Medhurst, who's a great lefty host, by the way, on YouTube as well. You should check him out. And he came up with the term boutique left. And yeah, it's perfect. I mean, that's the perfect representation of the perfect name for the people that are being represented in the Biden government, or at least want to be represented, even though they're constantly pushing for neoliberal warmongering policies that the big corporations love. And so yeah, so it seems like what's his name, Joe Manchin's only response to not wanting Neera Tanden as the head of the OMB is because of her mean tweets. But there is a hell of a lot more reasons that she should not be the head of anything. She shouldn't even be the head of like a big ass organization in general, but she is obviously going to be because she founded it, I think, if I remember correctly. Well, her and John Podesta did. By the way, John Podesta was the chief of staff for Obama, and he's got all kinds of issues too. So I mean, it's no wonder why President Obama had such a neoliberal record as president. But yeah, so let's go over the interesting history that Neera Tanden has here. So according to an email that was released by WikiLeaks, Neera Tanden actually pushed for she advocated for stealing Libya's oil to pay off the U.S. debt. I mean, that on its face, you can see is already fucking atrocious. And anybody that even supports somebody like that, just for that reason alone, you got to be like a real fucking immoral person. She also outed a sexual harassment victim within her organization, Center for American Progress. Outed a sexual harassment victim and gave her name, even though she wanted to obviously keep it. She wanted to keep it, from getting out. And Neera Tanden didn't give a fuck. She was just like, who cares? I'm gonna out you, me, a wonderful woman that's a woman of color and supporting all women, believing all women, except Tara Reid. Tara Reid doesn't count. Doesn't count as somebody that should be believed by any woman, apparently. Any woman that's a supporter of Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party. But yeah, she outed this woman that was working for the Center for American Progress. Didn't give a fuck. Okay, whatever. That's fucked up, obviously, too. And she also physically assaulted a Think Progress reporter, Faz Shakir, who is actually the former campaign manager for Bernie Sanders' 2020 campaign. And the reason why she did this, he asked a hard question of Hillary Clinton. Oh my God, how dare he? See, that's the death knell for you. If you're working for Neera Tanden, you asked a hard question of her queen. How dare you? Don't ever do that. You can't do that. You will not cross Hillary Clinton or anybody that Neera Tanden is tied at the hip to, apparently. And the final thing, and this is just a short list. I could go through a longer ass list, but this is all the things that came off the top of my head. So after the Center for American Progress received funding, I forgot how much it was, but they received a considerable amount of funding from former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. The Center for American Progress took out portions of an article about treatment of Muslims under Bloomberg's reign as mayor. So notice that. So obvious corruption there, and doing favors, and then you pay somebody money, and then look at that, they end up doing something nice for you. Big surprise, corruption. That's the most obvious form of corruption you're ever going to see, and that, I don't know how much he gave, but obviously it was a considerable enough amount to make them happy, so that Michael Bloomberg doesn't look like more of an asshole than he already is, pretty much. So yeah, Neera Tanden is not a serious person. She is not somebody, again, that is qualified to run the budget of a country of 320 million people. I wouldn't trust her to run the budget of a country that's 1 million people. She is an idiot, and she is extremely toxic, but she's also very unethical, and she doesn't need to be anywhere near government. She needs to stay the fuck away from government. Go run your fucking bullshit little full aggressive organization over there. Make everybody happy about how wonderful Joe Biden is. Go do the same thing that CNN and the rest of the corrupt mainstream media, corporate mainstream media, is doing. Go pump up Joe Biden, make him seem as if he's like this wonderful, empathetic guy, as you continue to push for stupid, pathetic neoliberal policies. I actually wanted to play you guys one more clip, actually from a CNN broadcast here. This is a CNN a segment where they were talking about the fact that Joe Manchin is not going to vote for Neera Tanden, and this was a segment featuring two CNN contributors, one of them being the executive editor for the Justice Democrats, the same organization that helped elect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, recently Jamal Bowman, Mondaire Jones, Cori Bush, all these people that are supposed to be these wonderful progressive lefties that we're not supposed to criticize and we're supposed to love forever and never say anything bad about. So apparently this person, Alexandra Rojas, I believe is her name, right? Is it Alexandra Rojas? It is, yeah, I think that's her name, Alexandra Rojas. And so she's going to chime in here, and she's going to give her take on what she thinks it's so terrible, the terrible thing that Joe Manchin is doing, that and he shouldn't be such a terrible partisan, most likely sexist too. So check it out.
We have some breaking news for you now. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia just announced that he will vote against President Biden's pick to lead the Office of Management and Budget, Neera Tanden, putting her nomination in jeopardy. Manchin saying in a statement, in part, quote, "I have carefully reviewed Neera Tanden's public statements and tweets that were personally directed towards my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, from Senator Bernie Sanders to Senator Mitch McConnell and others. I believe her overtly partisan statements will have a toxic and detrimental impact on the important working relationship between members of Congress and the next director of the Office of Management and Budget." Let's bring in our panel. Alexandra Rojas, this would be Biden's first defeat, and obviously a defeat for Neera Tanden personally because of a bunch of tweets she's done that were rather harsh.
Yeah, and I mean, there's public record of those tweets, but the reality is, I think that Joe Manchin is the one being divisive right now. We are in the middle of a public pandemic. Joe Biden was just elected by a huge mandate by the American people. We have to deliver as Democrats, and we need people in positions of power who are ready and prepared to go big in this moment and not leave anyone behind. The mentality has got to be of the Democratic Party especially, but any elected official, that we have to move quickly to save as many lives as possible. And I would also point out that he had no problem voting to confirm other appointments of clearly partisan members when it was the previous Republican administration. There should be no, I think, opposition to some, folks that are being proposed by the Biden administration who have, clearly are ready to do the work and are ready to get the job done, and they feel are the best prepared to do it.
And Mary Catherine, I mean...
Okay, bro, what the fuck? I mean, what has happened to the Justice Democrats? As Pat the Burner here on Twitter, a good friend of mine on Twitter here, guy I've been following for a minute, and he says, what the fuck is wrong with Justice Dems? What is it? What are they? I don't know what they're trying to accomplish by trying to, by pushing this kind of unity bullshit. But that's the thing, they're trying to be good Democrats. It's the same exact thing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is doing. This is exactly why she didn't want to be pushed on forced to vote. Something that Jimmy Dore was pushing, something that Breonna Joy Gray was pushing, and a lot of other lefties. What's his name? Justin Jackson, who's the running back for the San Diego Chargers, big-time leftist. He was pushing for that. And all these people that were advocating for this very simple policy of, yeah, let's just go and push for politicians to do their job, hold them accountable, and this is what you're supposed to do as politicians. That's what you're supposed to do as constituents, or at least as supporters of that person. And then that the politician is supposed to listen to their constituents and the people that push for them to become elected. AOC didn't want to do that, and I guarantee you, Alexandra Rojas doesn't want to do anything. Doesn't want to have anything to do with that either. She's going to go out there and push for, oh my God, no, we have to, be unified, get along with everybody. Let's all get along. And again, it's because of Trump, because they don't want to get another Trump, which they're going to get anyway. Democrats are for sure going to lose the Congress in 2022 and possibly the Senate again, which they just got. They're going to possibly lose the Senate again in 2022 as well. But we'll see. But definitely they're going to lose the House for sure, because they're so damn close. It's almost like, what is it, like only like a 5-seat difference of the majority. But either way, I mean, it's this whole tactic of being so scared to get another Trump and pushing for unity because everybody has to get along and everybody has to work together. It's bullshit. And okay, sure, maybe Joe Manchin is being partisan. His reasoning for wanting to not vote for Neera Tanden is stupid anyway. I mean, he supports all of her pro-corporate, neoliberal, in many cases right-wing policies. But he doesn't like that she sent out some mean tweets. And yeah, that's obviously like the bottom of the fucking list when it comes to how bad she is. But notice the one thing that she said. What Alexandra Rojas said. She said that Neera Tanden and all the other people that have been put into the positions of government by Joe Biden are all very, very qualified, and they're very, very talented, and they know what they're doing, and they are really good at nominees and stuff. Like, it's just like, that's not true at all. I mean, again, like I said before, Neera Tanden is not qualified to run any of these to run for any kind of position that has to deal with the budget of a country that's over 300 million people. What kind of history does she have in government, let alone her employment, that she qualifies for something like that? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I mean, okay, sure, Joe Manchin is not doing it for the right reasons, but we'll take it. And I mean, but Alexandra Rojas, the Justice Democrats, they're just being, it's gotten to the point that they've gotten the nickname Just Democrats. I think another person said Just Us Democrats. So like, just us Democrats. So yeah, just Democrats, whatever it is. Yeah, that's what they are, because they're just Democrats. And that's a very fitting name, considering, you're talking about claiming to be doing for justice. What justice are you for? You're not for any kind of justice. You're just out there to play along, get along to be along, or whatever it is, whatever the saying is, get along to go along. And you don't want to really do anything to do that whole revolutionary thing you were talking about. Now, you can definitely say that Bernie Sanders was somebody that pushed for that and isn't doing that anymore now, because he's pretty much become kind of just like he seems like more of a standard Democrat these days as well. But he was pushing for a lot more. He was pushing for a lot more of these, progressive not liberal, well, back in the day maybe liberal, but progressive left-wing policies back in the day, and was pushing it for a long time until recently, when he kind of started to like soften on it because he wants to go along to get along. But yeah, Bernie Sanders lasts a hell of a lot longer than AOC did. AOC, the Justice Democrats, they gave in, less than 2 years in, and they were already, going back, starting from the period of time before AOC even got into office. She was doing protests outside of Nancy Pelosi's office, and now she's completely gone off the wayside from that. So she doesn't even give a fuck about that no more. So yeah, it's just a joke. Justice Democrats are not a group that anybody should be taking seriously, and even if they are our so-called allies, that's not something that we should bank on just because we want to not get another Trump, because what they're already doing is going to give us another Trump anyway. So what if they think they're going in the right direction here? That's not what's happening at all.